Days of Play sale is now live on the PlayStation Store and ends June 8th. While we're at it, don't forget that Star Wars Squadrons is free for all PlayStation Plus members starting today, and will be without Parole's multiplayer game this Sunday. So join our Discord if you want to get involved. And as always, a huge shout out to DuranFan for compiling these lists during each sale. There are a lot of cool things happening in A Fisherman's Tale. The voice acting, narration, and puzzle design are all top notch, but it's only about 90 minutes long, and in my opinion, totally falls apart during the last 20 minutes or so. But still, for $8, it's a memorable experience. We always like to remind everyone that the VR portion of Ace Combat 7 is only 3 missions, but those 3 missions have a ton of replayability and enough unlockables to keep you busy for the better part of 10 hours. Plus, it's absolutely breathtaking, one of the most immersive experiences you can have on PSVR. $12 is the perfect price for Arizona Sunshine. There's a decent length campaign here that can be played solo or co-op with the moves or the aim controller, and plenty of 4-player horde maps. It's a little janky now and then, but that shouldn't keep you from playing it. Arizona Sunshine is pretty fun. Astrobot Rescue Mission is one of the best reasons to own a PSVR headset. The beautiful environments, charming lead character, amazing classic platforming gameplay, plus a ton of hidden collectibles to find and challenges to complete mean you'll easily spend over 10 hours with this one. Simply a must-have game for everyone. Survios absolutely killed it with the locomotion system in Battle Wake. You'll steer your pirate ship, make hard turns, and fire on enemy ships really easily. But there's just not a lot here. You'll finish the campaign within a few hours, and the multiplayer is fun for a day or so if you can find people to play with. So yeah, it's really shallow, but for the right price, it's a lot of fun. And $9 might just be the right price. Another fairly shallow game by Survios that, again, is totally worth picking up for the right price. Creed Rise to Glory is a great boxing game based on the Rocky franchise where you play as Adonis Creed and work your way up through the ranks. It's a fun single-player workout, and not bad in multiplayer either. Dance Collider starts off with this great premise of crossing synth riders with Street Fighter, but fails on the execution. It gets boring fast, and a good number of the beats aren't even on rhythm, making it feel like it needed some more time in the oven before launch. With Beat Saber already killing it on PSVR and Synth Riders on the way, Dance Collider is easy to skip. I'm not a Doctor Who fan. I've always meant to check it out, but to this day I've still never seen a single episode. Yet somehow that didn't matter when I played Doctor Who Edge of Time. It's a fun adventure game with some puzzle elements and, even better, some horror elements. For $9 with Plus, Edge of Time is definitely worth checking out, whether you're a fan of the series or not. Doom 3 is an example of something we need more of on PlayStation VR. First-person shooters with a solid, single-player campaign. Naturally, I'm going to like this one more than most because of the horror vibe, but if you simply want to blast demons away for over 10 hours with your aim controller, Doom 3 is hard to argue with. That said, it is a touch blurry and the scale of the world is off, making NPCs look tiny. So please, Archaeact, give us a patch to address these issues. Dreams is such an obvious purchase for anyone with even a single creative bone in their body, or for those interested in checking out what creative people are capable of making. The fact that it allows you to make PSVR games is pretty unbelievable to begin with, but as a bonus, Dreams automatically upscales the resolution based on which console you're playing on, meaning that, although the OG PS4 might look blurry, when you play on the PlayStation 5, VR creations look fantastic. One of the best ways to chill out in VR, Electronauts puts you into a weird, futuristic DJ booth, allowing you to create loops and goof around with all sorts of experimental devices. Plus, there's a ton of free DLC included here too, so Electronauts now sports over 80 songs from different EDM and hip-hop artists. Espire 1 does things in VR that I'd love to see expanded on in a sequel, but unfortunately, the campaign here is boring. There's no 3D or even stereo audio for footsteps, meaning it's hard to be stealthy. Plus, there's zero punishment for treating the stealth game like a run-and-gun action game. It's not a total loss though. The challenge mode here is actually really well crafted, but I can still live without this one. To this day, Firewall Zero Hour remains the king of first-person shooters on PlayStation VR. It doesn't have the speed or chaotic nature of Solaris or Albo, but it does have the best and most diverse environments, a great progression system with a ton of gadgets to unlock, and an overall level of polish that can't be beat. If you can get past the insanely long load times and somewhat boring Tony Stark sections, Iron Man VR delivers an awesome Iron Man experience every time you step into the suit. If you're like me, you'll fumble with the weapons and slam into every wall for the first hour or so. Then once you acclimate to the controls, it feels insanely good. There's actually a decent story here too, once you get to the later levels. Killing Floor Incursion isn't your typical Killing Floor game, but diving into this one with another player online is a lot of fun. The 4 different levels are massive and well rendered, the zombie killing is endless, and for $8, this one can be a lot of fun. There are a couple of glitches that if you encounter, can be game breaking, so keep that in mind, as it's doubtful they'll be fixed at this point. Kona is one of those games that was sort of pushed into VR unceremoniously. It's click turning only, the graphics are blurry, making the map unreadable and objectives unclear, and some of the action moments from the flat screen version are just completely missing here. But for $4, it's a full-length X-Files or Twin Peaks-inspired adventure featuring a ton of exploration, driving, and crafting, and in my book, is still totally worth playing. What can I say about Moss that hasn't been said before? It's a great storybook-style third-person puzzle platformer that simply oozes charm. It's beautiful, tells a great story, and we can't wait for a follow-up. Moss is a PSVR classic. Probably one of the better hidden gems in the sale, No Heroes Allowed carries on the Badman series of comical takes on RPGs, this one specifically being somewhat of an RTS tower defense game. It seems simple on the surface and can be beaten pretty easily, but I had more fun with this one than any other RTS in recent memory. I think I just like playing as the bad guys. No Man's Sky is so vast and expansive that it's actually somewhat intimidating to play. Exploring this practically infinite universe allows you to learn languages, upgrade your weapons, buy better ships, mine for resources, play with other people online, giving you literally hundreds of hours of gameplay. It's just way too much to even begin to explain here. It is worth mentioning though that there is no Pro patch, just a PS5 patch, so while it looks really blurry on PlayStation 4 and PS4 Pro, it looks beautiful on PS5. Being lowered into the water in a shark cage in Ocean's Descent was, for a lot of us, one of our first experiences in PlayStation VR, and it remains one of the best places to put your friends, parents, or grandparents when they come over and check out PSVR for the first time. Plus there's 4 other minigames here that range from just okay to really, really good. World's got a bad reputation when it launched at $40, but the 5 minigames included here are totally worth the sale price of $9. The VR part of Prey includes an escape room called TranStar VR and a unique 6-player multiplayer game called Typhon Hunter. Neither of these modes felt all that polished, but Typhon Hunter could be fun with the right group of people. Overall though, unless you're interested in playing the full flat screen campaign, you can pretty easily skip this one. Raw Data never used to go on sale, but now for $10, it's pretty much a must-have title. It's a wave shooter that gradually becomes a tower defense game, but you run around with full locomotion using different characters with different unlockable abilities. And the most surprising part, for me at least, was the story that was told along the way. This and Sprint Vector remain Survios' 2 best games. As the definitive best game on PlayStation VR, Resident Evil 7 blows away the competition with an amazing campaign, classic Resident Evil gameplay, and ranks amongst the scariest games I've ever played in my life. Adding to that a ton of replayability, collectibles, and unlockables for subsequent playthroughs, Resident Evil 7 was already worth it for the $60 launch price. $10 is simply insane. The Season Pass for Resident Evil 7 grants you access to all the DLC, and man, there is a ton of variety here. Everything from more story DLC and a Saw-inspired card game called 21, to my favorite, a survival mode called Nightmare that's practically endlessly replayable. This is an amazing assortment of DLC that complements RE7 perfectly. With Panzer Dragoon-like gameplay and some of the trippiest visuals on the platform, Res Infinite is an absolute must-have game from legendary developer Tetsuya Mizuguchi. But if you want this one, you've got to act fast, because the sale for Res Infinite ends today. We know that there are cats out there who love and defend rigs, but it never hooked me no matter how many times I tried, probably because it leaned a bit too hard into the esports side of things, which is a shame, because as a launch title, it had awesome production values right out of the gate. The VR part of Rise of the Tomb Raider is a pretty small mode where you explore Croft Manor in first person and uncover items and documents. It all feels a bit like a point-and-click adventure, but if you're thinking of playing the flat screen version anyway, this mode is absolutely worth playing too. Sharknado VR feels like a joke that got greenlit, and then no one knew what to do when the project actually got funded. It's a low-quality, budget wave shooter that isn't worth it, really for any price. Skyworld is one of the few turn-based strategy games on PSVR, and it's actually really good. If you're like me and fairly new to the genre, there is a learning curve here, but it's nothing too daunting. You'll have to raise and lower taxes, keep everyone happy, manufacture resources, and fight the enemy. Plus, there's an online 1v1 mode once you feel like you got the gist. Sprint Vector looks like Jet Grind Radio, plays like Mario Kart, and makes you sweat like Beat Saber on Expert Plus. You'll skate, jump, slide, and climb your way against 7 opponents in each race. With single-player races and online multiplayer, Sprint Vector forces you to learn not just how to play, but also each of the maps in order to win. It's a workout, but it's also one of the most fun PSVR games out there. The flat-screen version of Super Stardust Ultra benefits from high-resolution graphics, which is really important in a twin-stick bullet hell shooter. The PSVR version loses quite a bit of that resolution, so even though the game is still great and the added depth of each planet is enjoyable, this is one of the few times that VR doesn't quite make everything better, despite the bonus VR-exclusive first-person level. If you have any VR headset and still haven't played Super Hot VR, you're absolutely insane. The time only moves when you do, and every stage plays out like a mini puzzle. Who to punch, how to get a gun, how to dodge incoming attacks, and after a ton of trial and error, you'll feel like a graceful ballerina, or something more masculine, I don't know, you pick, when taking down enemies. If Tetris Effect was ever worth picking up, it's now. Not only is the core game awesome, but there are a ton of variations that are equally addictive. Community rituals with rewards, and coming this summer at long last is the free Connected update that will finally bring us the one thing Tetris Effect has been missing: online multiplayer modes for co-op and competitive play. Too much of the Impatient's 2-hour runtime is answering inane questions from the NPCs which determine which outcome of the story you'll get. But if you're willing to put in the work, there's a few good scares here, some good storytelling, and upwards of 6 different endings, a few that are radically different than the others that open up new areas of the hospital. Unfortunately, that's a lot of work for very little payoff, and I can only truly recommend this one to other horror fans. There are a ton of good ideas in The Walking Dead Onslaught. For starters, scavenging runs are a total blast, playing a bit like a single-player battle royale, where you're racing through the environment from start to finish, grabbing as many items as you can, avoiding and killing walkers, all while the horde slowly creeps up behind you. Sadly, the story missions are often downright boring. The overarching story is forgettable, the 4 playable characters don't differ in any substantial regard, and the whole thing feels like exactly what it is: a multiplayer game with no multiplayer option. It's not bad, but Onslaught is far from great. Rush of Blood has been on sale for less, but it's still one of the best PSVR games out there. It feels like a light gun shooter in the vein of Carnival or House of the Dead, but on literal roller coaster rails, making it not only one of the best horror games out there, but one of the best roller coaster games on the platform. Keep in mind that, although it works perfectly on PlayStation 4 and PS4 Pro, Rush of Blood has problems on the PS5 that cause the game to pause randomly, making it way too annoying to play. I always hate finishing sale videos on such a low note, but whenever there's a big PSVR sale, VR Ping Pong is always there. I could deal with the unattractive environments, but the physics here are just way off. I played ping pong for my entire life on an actual table, and this is just not how it's supposed to feel. Which brings us to VR Ping Pong Pro. The developers killed it this time with awesome backgrounds teeming with life, but somehow the physics in this follow-up are even worse than the original. I've said it 1,000 times before, but I'll say it again. If you have PSVR and are looking for a good table tennis game with perfect physics and gameplay, there's nothing better than Racket Fury.